Hello again, this is Jeremy and this is Chess Time. This is a game I played today, and it's versus Blue, MaxBlue, and I'm Bags. I play as black and he plays as white, Max does. And his first move is, again, Bobby Fischer's favorite opening. We know that. Challenging the center, do you see that? Yeah. And then he goes for attacking my pawn. Do you see that, how he's attacking my pawn? I'm setting up something called the Russian defense, which he'll trade, then I push my pawn to repel him. Then I attack, I take his pawn, then he pushes the d4, and then I protect with my pawn. But he doesn't go for that variation. He goes for somewhat of a 3-knight variation. So, and now we see that we're going into the Royal Lopez variation now, because the Royal Lopez has the bishop pinning the C knight to the king, and he repels me with a pawn, his A3 pawn. I go back. I don't leave the pressure, because if he puts his pawn to D3, I got an ultimate pin. Remember that? The absolute pin, and he can't move. But he does push the B to B4, his pawn to B4. I have to go to B6. Yeah, this guy's traveled a lot recently, huh? Then he goes to A4, attacking. The bishop is basically gone, but I can open lines for my rook later on in the game. And I play C6. Do you see that? He's probably going to trade. Then I can bring my bishop to C7, save my bishop, and also repel his knight. And as I thought, and in the game he did what I just said. I bring back my bishop. I want to have the two bishops are powerful in the end game. If it's open, if it's closed, knights are powerful. If it's open, bishops are ultimately the most powerful minor pieces in an A game. And he retreats to G4, trying to have me trade. I don't trade. I play knight takes, getting back my material. True, he could bring his queen to E2 and pin my knight, but I also can bring my queen to E7 and relieve the pin. And he does exactly that. And I do exactly what I said. You can almost predict what they could do, but not fully. He pushes his D pawn to D3, repelling my knight. This is a good move and a bad move in some things. He should have played all the way up, and maybe he should have pushed his F3 pawn, and then it would have protected his knight, and then he could have went D4 and then C4 and then stormed the queen side. But this is also a good move. I go back because I don't want to go back to the same spot I'm at. And I go back to a very powerful position. I can always come to F5, R, B5. He trades queens. You're like, oh no, I gotta take my king, I lose castling. Yes, but sometimes you have to trade a little bit to make sure that your position's safe. And there's no way, if you notice, we'll step back for a second, there's no rooks on open files, there's no pieces that are even close enough to even attacked me, my king. So he's okay right now. But later on in the game, if like this is open and the guy and the white king was castled, yeah, I'd be in a problem then. But not right now. He's getting ready to castle. You see, he's moving his bishop. I move my rook to e8. You're wondering why. I have to basically self-castle. They call it castle by hand. So what I'm actually doing is I'm going to move my king to f8. I'm going to move him over here, and then if must be, I can move to g8, and it'd be like it was castled. But it would take 3 moves to do that instead of 1. Castles. I move my king like I told you about the hand castling. Moves the bishop. He's probably trying to get open lines. I don't know why he moved his bishop twice though. Because there was really, oh, yeah, the pressure. But he could have brought his, that actually probably was the best move he could do, now that I think about it. Sometimes analyzing is, you think one move's the best, but sometimes it's not. So you have to look at that sometimes. Don't worry about being wrong, because sometimes you can learn from that. And he moves his knight, see that? He moves it to c5. He's attacking my d7 pawn. And if I move, he can fork. See, if I move my knight anywhere, I move my knight back to b7. The reason I'm doing that, I want to get rid of his c5 knight. It's a very powerful knight. If I can get rid of that, I can start pushing, and I can also take with my bishop and have a fianchetto bishop. That's exactly what he does. And I take with my light squared bishop, and look how, we'll step back, look how powerful those 2 bishops are. Slicing down the light squares, slicing down the dark squares. They control the road of the board for right now. Also have a rook on open file. I have all the control of the central control. And all I need to do is push my d5 pawn to d5, and I have a free game. I can bring my knight, my rooks in, and basically he's in deep trouble and he can't come out of it. If he plays right, he may be able to. You guys watched me, you know I could. Yeah, he moves his bishop to e3. Trying to develop, get his rooks connected. All I need to do, like I said, remember, d5. And I do that. He pulls his rook from A to e1. You see that? I think he should have actually moved his f rook to e1. Then he could have did d1. Then he could have had central control over because rooks are really powerful on open files. He kind of trapped in his f1 rook, but it's also defending too. So, but there's really nothing to defend with for that rook. But I see that I got to get my knight to an open square, a powerful square. The best square would be e5. But I know I could either push my pawn here to c, and then I can get it to c5, or I could bring my rook to d8 and do what he should have did with his a rook. He plays a check, and I castle. Remember, that's where the king would have been if I had castled. So I completed castling by hand, and then he plays rook takes rook. I don't think he should, in my opinion, I don't think he should have did that, because it gave me, again, see, I'm going to trade, and I'm still going to control the E file. So it really didn't accomplish anything by doing that. You would say he freed up his F1 rook, but what he free it up to? There's nothing he could free it up to. If he moves it, I'll take it. It's checkmate. So, but he tries his ditch effort on the queen side. He's pushing his c pawn to c4, and he sees that if I trade, he can have it. He'll get an extra pawn. But I don't do that. You'll see what I do. I take right away. You see how I relieved the bishop from any... Now I have two bishops. I have the strong central control. The position I'm going to open up, and then I'll have bishop slicing through the position, and he won't stand a chance. He takes, doubling his pawns. Do you see that? I take. I actually analyzed this. After I beat blue, I actually analyzed to see if this was the best pawn move, because I could have taken it with either one. This was actually the best one, because it took to the center, and it also allowed my bishops to come out. See, I could bring my bishop to a6, or my bishop to my dark squared bishop to a5. He takes. It's always good if you could take some time, analyze, even if you don't win the game, you can learn something from the game. What I do is I push my pawn, removing his strong g4 rook. I mean, not rook, knight. He can't move to d4 because of the rook. His only move is e3. That takes him out of all central control. He does have a little bit, but not as much as if he would have went to e5. I bring my rook to e5, keep the pressure on. Also, I can prepare to come over here, and then I can slice down, or I can keep my pawn push. Everything's go for that. He does take. I don't mind that he takes, because then we both have passed. Pawns, if you notice. See? Yes, true. He's got one closer to my side, but I could, because I have two bishops, I could protect this pawn all the way down the board. With his knight only can work on one side of the board. Bishops can slice up and down, right? You know, they're just incredible pieces in an open game. He pushes up, he's trying maybe to get his king involved, or maybe preventing h4. I push my pawn. See, now we both have the same amount. He's 3 squares, and I'm 3 squares away from queening. He moves his knight, which you're saying, oh, he can get my bishop. Yes and no. Let's go back and see. That wasn't a good move what he did, but he had to, because remember, I pushed the pawn and caused him to move. Which, when he did move, he left his bishop open. He should have moved his king up, but because of the pawn, he wasn't able to. And I allow him to take my rook. The reason I do, you're like, what? You allow him to take your rook? I get a bishop. Takes my rook. He takes, his knight takes a rook. And then I take his knight. Do you see that? See how I take his knight? For a rook, which is 5 pawns, I got 6. A bishop and a knight. And what did we say? in an endgame that's an open game, bishops are the best. Even against a lone rook, they're the best. They're like they're the team duels. I push. See how I'm also getting my king side going, and I also have the ability to push this pawn anytime I want, because I have two bishops. He moves his rook up. He does a big double question mark. He moved his rook right into an attack. Move that back. It wasn't any. He was lost to begin with because there's nothing he really could do. Because once I move my bishop into a safe spot, my dark square to light square, I can escort the bishop down, my pawn down, and get a queen he'll have to take. Then I'll be two bishops ahead, and I can take all of his queenside pawns. Then I have a pass pawn, and the game's over. So under pressure, he made a mistake. And we'll go back to the mistake. And I emphasize on that mistake. And blue resigns to Bags. And this is blue versus Bags. God bless.